These are the doors to Lackawanna Senior High School. I graduated from here in 1984. In 2004, I attended the 20-year class reunion, and I've never been to another reunion since, which is unusual as I was the student council president here. I lived just across the street. I was what they called a walker. In practical terms, that means I got to sleep in a little later and get home a little earlier than most of my classmates. I was one of those rare students that had perfect attendance all 4 years. But I think that had a lot to do with proximity more than ambition. Every ailment I ever had that I brought to my mother ended in the same way, with her pointing to this building and saying, "You're going to school." Looking back, I think I had more ambition than most of the high school students of my time, which is an odd thing to say because I was never really a joiner. When my friends were out partying, I simply went home or to the movies. I found ways to be part of the action without being part of the crowd. Crowd adjacent, if you will. In my sophomore and junior years, I was elected homeroom representative. And in my senior year, I was elected student council president. But I'm sure that had to do with my campaign of handing out Clark bars to the student body more than anything else. I'm sorry, Amy. You might have been the better candidate. So in 2004, I was asked to be part of the reunion committee. It seemed important at the time and even necessary. I had a 1-year-old at home. My wife was expecting our second child, and my mother had died a couple of years earlier. It just seemed like one of those moments where you were supposed to stop and take inventory of your life. And it was a terrific homecoming weekend. Some people I hadn't seen since graduation day, June 1984. Some changed, others looked exactly the same, but everyone had their story. I even gave a speech welcoming everyone back to the city and to the school. And one of the lines in that speech was, "We go forward not knowing what the future holds." And that was certainly true as a 40-year-old. The future still seemed bigger than the past. So I didn't attend the 25th year reunion. It was essentially a happy hour at a bar, and that didn't excite me. For the 30th year reunion, I was out of town. But by the time the 40th year reunion came along, I made a deliberate decision not to attend. Nothing was wrong. I wasn't mad at anyone. I still think fondly of everybody. And to this day, when I see a former classmate in the supermarket or at a restaurant, there's that instant connection. A lot of smiles, warm greetings. I think about the teachers who inspired me here. I reminisce a lot, as you know. And one of the things I looked forward to every year while I was in high school was the high school yearbook. I love seeing the photographs. Back in the 80s, it's not like today where you get to reminisce instantly with social media. We anticipated these yearbooks. And what I anticipated even more were the scribblings and musings from my friends, but especially my teachers. And one of my teachers wrote in my yearbook to Joe, "One of the finest students and human beings." And I hope I've lived up to that expectation. No, what changed wasn't the school, wasn't my friends. What changed was me. At 40 years old, it seemed appropriate to come back to the 20-year reunion and catch up on everyone's life. But as I was nearing 60 for the 40th year reunion, I realized I already had the answers to the parts of the story that mattered the most. I married my high school sweetheart. I still keep in touch with my English teacher from here. Even remain close to this day to a classmate or two. I guess the questions that brought me to the 20-year reunion had largely been answered. And this is the one chapter in my life that I'm okay closing. I think I finally left high school.